They cross at the corner and turn toward the bus stop they never take. Agreements are promises made visible, he says, keeping the words small. When people forget the people, the ones who carry the promise, little leaks sink big ships. So you fixed the leak? We showed it to the people who could, he says. That's most of fixing. A wind lifts the corner of his notebook. The blue line of his signature flashes and settles. Sophie taps the yellow star with one finger like a bell. Next time, can you say a quiet sentence faster? Only when the room is ready to hear it, he says. Then you said it at the right time, she decides, and he nods because the day has already agreed. Back at Aurora, the building hums in a different key. Maintenance edits require 2 names. Control clauses are certified in both languages. Device logs and inboxes are preserved before anyone performs confidence. A small card sits on Elena's desk in her father's hand. Open the red files sooner. She leaves it there where it can see the door. They pass a storefront that smells like oranges. Sophie tells him a story about a paper son she made at school. He listens. Their steps match. The lunchbox rides quietly home. He sets the dented thermos down, the sunflower sticker catching a softer kind of shine, and pours what warmth remains into a porcelain cup the hotel lends without comment. He keeps the questions practical and few. Are you safe? She nods, breath thinking about believing her. Are you alone tonight? Yes, she says, though the word carries edges. He does not chase the edges. Drink, he says, and the steam remembers its work. Her shoulders drop by a small, decisive inch. He watches the second hand on the lobby clock make a circle and lets quiet do what he brought it for. When color returns to her face, he unscrews the lid, tucks a folded napkin under the cap, and writes without ceremony. No, eh? He does not slide it across the table. He closes the lid and leaves it there for when hands are steadier. She reaches for a card. He shakes his head. Kindness is not a receipt, he says, gentle and exact. She tries again with cash folded to look like a thank you. He lifts a palm and lets it stay a thank you, then nods toward the door where the driver will appear. A small, useful future is arriving, that is enough. He stands, slings the bag, lifts the umbrella from the extra chair, and places it by her hand. Keep this dry, he says, meaning the morning as much as the fabric. She smiles once, the fragile kind that survives, and breathes like someone who can leave a room without breaking it. Headlights stripe the wet street outside. A courier angles through the doors with purpose and vanishes again. Upstairs, beneath closed wood and brass, signatures finish their slow, careful walk across paper. She will own a company by morning. He will sleep 3 hours and keep his promise to the day. The rain eases. Morning breaks clear and bright over the loading bays, and Cobalt Ridge hums like machinery remembering its tune. Noah badges in before most, backpack light except for a kid-packed lunch, half a sandwich a little squashed, a note folded small. His desk holds an absence. The dented thermos isn't there. He thinks of the orange umbrella, smiles once, and sets his bag down. Monitors wake to graze. The route dashboards lift their grids, lanes like arteries pulsing data. Noah schemes without blinking, the way a medic checks vitals, temps, alerts, dwell times. The same burr he felt last week is back, hiding in ordinary numbers. Small loss reversals gather just inside tolerance. Claims jump the queue, then close too fast. Each path leads to one credential cluster that likes midnight. He opens the vendor class map, watches the refresh marker spin, notes the lag between table and code. He writes 3 lines into a clean email. Pattern persists. Reversals concentrate on Corridor North 3. Claims under 30 days, tied to credential group DG17. He adds a screenshot, a timestamp, and sends it to Ops, Compliance, and Finance. Subject: recurring leak, read back. It joins prior notes like a patient friend at a locked door. He texts his daughter with his thumb, slows so it lands right. 3:30 promise. The sunflower sticker on his phone case catches the overhead light and looks briefly lit from within. Got it, her reply says, punctuated with a drawing of a sun and 3 exclamation points. Noah returns to the screens and starts a second pass, deeper this time, following the edits toward warranty language and lane windows. The hum of the floor thickens, chairs fill, voices lower. Somewhere close, a chime sounds like a wristwatch. An all-hands alert pings across every monitor. Company update at 10 o'clock. Noah steps into the corridor to cross toward ops when Dale Mercer shoulders the air in front of him, smile pitched for cameras that aren't here. "Calba ops again?" Dale asks, easy as banter. "You're overanalyzing dimes while we chase dollars." Two analysts behind him smother small laughs, the kind used to decorate hierarchy. Noah keeps his voice even. "Small leaks sink big ships." He shifts one step. Dale lets the path clear a heartbeat later than polite. By the bullpen windows, a director leans close to a colleague, a whisper shaped like weather. "Acquisition rumors are real," she says, then turns the whisper back into posture as someone looks over. The floor keeps moving as if the sentence had not nudged it. Tessa from HR matches Noah's pace for 3 steps. "Thanks for covering that late shift last week," she says under her breath. "Saved a mess." He nods once. "You covered me in March." She shakes her head. Still. He doesn't collect. He doesn't let debts grow interest. At his station, he opens the vendor class map again and watches the refreshed spinner circle a fraction too long. The delta between table and code holds like grit under a gear. He checks the timestamp on last night's push and the one on this morning's reconcile, screenshots both, overlays them with the Corridor North 3 reversals, and pastes the trio into a new message. Subject: mislabel lag persists. He adds one line for people who speak in money instead of tables. Compounds inside tolerance. Cost shows up when vendors stop being patient. He sends it to ops, compliance, and finance again. The thread stitches itself to the prior notes, clean and ignorable only if someone chooses to be. He stands to stretch, looks across the floor. The analysts who laughed earlier fold back into their work. Dale's reflection passes on the glass, bright and brief. A clock tick he doesn't need tells him it is nearly time. Down the hall, double doors unlatch with a practiced sound. Conference room lights come up. Executive badges flow in a small procession, faces composed, screens awake. The building tilts 1 degree toward whatever is next, and the hum tightens like a drumhead. Noah breathes once, then follows without breaking stride. The room stills before anyone decides to be quiet. The double doors part, and a woman steps in with the composed economy of someone used to moving rooms by inches, not noise. Mira Sato, principal of Linden and West, sets her folder on the table and carries, in her other hand, a folded orange umbrella, rain still shining along one rib. She takes the side of the head chair rather than the center, which tells the room more than the press release ever will. "Thank you for making time," she says, voice even enough to clear the air. She names the vision in 3 clean lines: steady lanes before bigger lanes, fewer surprises before faster growth, people before optics. Integration will be brief, targeted, and public only when results can stand. The umbrella rests at the table's edge like a small flag that declines to explain itself. Dale Mercer fills his smile with light that doesn't belong to him. "On behalf of finance, welcome," he says, the words rushing to finish ahead of meaning. "We'll keep velocity high and smooth out the small stuff after quarter close." Mara listens without changing expression. "Thank you, Dale. For now, please hold questions, sequence first." She glances across the room, not searching, simply letting her eyes land where attention lives. Noah stands behind a chair near the wall, phone face down beside his notebook. The sunflower sticker set into the case catches a strip of light. Recognition arrives like a shared memory of rain. His small nod, her fractional breath, the room's center shifting by a degree no one names. Mira keeps going. "We will start with a 5-point runbook on data integrity, route windows, and claim controls. Existing teams remain in place as we confirm facts." She closes the folder and lets quiet finish the sentence. Then she adds the only agenda change the morning needs. "After these remarks, I'd like 5 minutes with operations and compliance." "Thank you." The umbrella holds its color. The room exhales. Pens lift, then still, as schedules quietly accept a new order. No one argues today. Noah moves with the quiet purpose of a man who knows that timing is the only tool that truly matters. He stops by the chief of staff, a man holding a tablet like a shield, and slides a single sheet of paper into his peripheral view. It's a clean snapshot of maintenance logs, rows of timestamps between midnight and dawn, linked to a specific credential cluster that isn't ops, isn't legal, and isn't finance. No notes, no accusations. Just the raw pattern, breathing in the white space. The chief looks, blinks, and folds the page into his jacket pocket without breaking his stride. Then, Noah turns to the operations team. He slides a sticky note onto their collective pile, a note with only 3 lines of text: mislabeled drift, underinsurance on lane 4, claim speed anomalies. It's an instruction manual for a problem they thought they were hiding in the noise. He doesn't sign it, he doesn't need to. He walks back to his corner, messenger bag heavy with the work he's already done. Myra's gaze travels across the table. She isn't looking at their official spreadsheets. She's looking at the connections, the way the lines Noah drew cross the ones she pulled during her own due diligence. Her eyes narrow just a fraction, the recognition of a hunter seeing another hunter's tracks. She's been chasing this exact shadow for weeks. Dale stands, brushing invisible lint from his sleeve, pushing for a finish line that hides the damage. Close the deal by quarter end, he urges, voice bright with manufactured urgency. We can paper over the small stuff later. It is just empty noise inside the machine. Mira lets the silence stretch until it becomes heavy, then looks at her watch. We have a private session at 11, she says, eyes finding Noah's. I want to see the rest of the map. The quarter end moves, Martin, when I decide that it truly does. The room is smaller than the auditorium and closer to the truth. Blinds cut the city into quiet rectangles. The table fits 6 without asking anyone to perform. Mira sets her folder down and takes the side seat again. No theater, just sequence, she says, steady as a metronome. People settle by instinct, operations to her left, compliance across, IT on speaker, legal with a yellow pad. Noah chooses mid-table, opens a clean notebook, and waits for the noise to burn off. He does not recite a biography. Vendor disputes for 90 days, he says. Raw, not summarized. Maintenance edits with timestamps, and user IDs for the same window. Insurance adjustments on any claim closed inside 30 days. Route histories for corridors with freeze windows, show me when alerts escalate, and who clears them. Add a snapshot of the vendor class map, refresh order since the last code push. No pivots, no cosmetics. Let the numbers arrive the way they lived. Operations starts pulling queries. Screens bloom with gray rows that don't mind being plain. IT dials in, camera off, voice clean. Compliance opens a blank hold notice but doesn't write yet. Noah draws boxes and narrow arrows, leaving labels for later, the way you sketch a river before naming its bends. He says little. When he does, it is a level sentence that makes space for work. I don't need credit. I need the numbers to tell the same story twice. The first stack lands, disputes reversed just inside tolerance, neat as receipts pinned to a board. The second, maintenance edits clustering between 040 and 120, the same credential string surfacing like a watermark. The third, insurance adjustments approved before dawn, claim closures too quick to be cautious. He asks for the raw behind one chart, declines a summary, and draws a thin line from edits to reversals, another from adjustments to the lanes that seem to find trouble when clocks are tired. He does not sell conclusions. He names what would follow if the overlaps hold, drift that climbs into 7 figures across 2 quarters, a 60 to 90 day freeze if a disputed shipment crosses the wrong threshold, guidance that stops fitting inside the sentence finance wants to say. Mara watches without interrupting, eyes moving from his boxes to the column headers, then to a tab in her own binder she doesn't open yet. More data arrives, obedient to the queries and indifferent to rank. The 3 seams begin to declare themselves, not as speeches, but as paths that meet. The room gets quieter in the useful way. Mara opens her due diligence binder to a page of slim tabs, each color a seam she has already tested. She turns to the first, the vendor class map, where her note reads refresh order inverted. Small mislabels pass tolerance, reverse within a week, and never trip alarms. She taps the second tab. Maintenance edits between 040 and 120, sticky to one credential string. The third marks underinsured cold chain routes funneled through higher risk windows. Quick claims follow. The binder's quiet says she expected today, the room's quiet says it did not. Noah slides printouts beside the tabs until margins rhyme. He doesn't narrate, he aligns. On seam 1, he places dispute rows that reverse inside tolerance, and a diff showing the validation table trusting last quarter's codes after a push. On seam 2, he sets audit trails where edits bloom near midnight under the same credential cluster. On seam 3, he lines underinsured departures against route windows inviting alerts, then claims approved before dawn. The arrows in his notebook run from cause to consequence without needing ink. He speaks stakes in plain speech. Left to run, the drift is 14 to 18 million across 2 quarters. A dispute past second review can freeze lanes 60 to 90 days, and guidance built on velocity collapses into caveats. Covenants tighten as cash recedes. Vendors lose patience when maps lie. He keeps his voice low. This is not theater, he says, it is plumbing. If seals are wrong, floors get wet, and people start calling it weather. Mira turns a page and lets the binder meet the fresh paper as if introducing old evidence to today's witness. She underlines nothing. She only sets her fingertip on the credential string that repeats and waits for silence to acknowledge it. Tessa from HR steps in with a printout from the repository log, a submission 2 weeks old from N. Alvarez, attachment opened at 1413 by Dale Mercer's account, routing suppressed at 1602. Timestamps stand like coordinates. Noah doesn't look at Dale. Mira does. Dale tries on a smile and finds it does not fit. He reaches for explanation, triage, phishing risk, protocol, and stops when Mira lifts her eyes with the calm of a closed door. We'll let facts do the speaking, she says, not louder than the room, only steadier. Compliance notes begin as bullets. IT's cursor returns with device logs. Operations opens the runbook that will reset the validation order and lock edits behind names. The umbrella from last night dries by the window. No one mentions rain. Legal asks for 5 minutes off the record. Mira nods without standing. The request is less about privacy than tempo. Decisions prefer clear air. Outside the door, the building keeps its hum. Inside, a line hardens between what was tolerated and what will be fixed. Noah stacks his pages square, pen aligned to spine, and waits without needing to own the room. The numbers do. When the clock restarts, it will not be the same hour they walked in. Silence settles until decisions can stand up without wobbling. Mira looks at the numbers, then at the man who kept them parked between her and the truth. Leave the room, she says. It is not loud. It does not need to be. Dale blinks, performs a half-smile that finds no purchase, and steps out. The latch closes like a period. We act now, Mira says. External audit engaged today, independent of finance. Counsel retained on a separate track. No shared reporting lines. Compliance, issue preservation holds across inboxes, shared drives, and devices. IT, snapshot Dale Mercer's mail, messaging, and access logs for the last 30 days. Revoke elevated permissions pending review. Suspend edit rights on maintenance tables. Dual approval only, with human names on change tickets and a timestamp you can read without a decoder. She keeps going, pace even, spine straight. Operations, rebuild the validation refresh order before close and document the run. Vendor relations, draft a 30-day cure that prevents full lane freezes except on the disputed route. Insurance, halt manual adjustments until controls are rebuilt. Legal, add bilingual control clause certification to every contract where language can drift. 2 sign-offs before signature, 1 from the business, 1 from counsel. Route all findings to compliance, and to me. No single-point gatekeeping. Pens start moving like a new current. Ops is already at the whiteboard, drawing boxes that feel like walls that will hold. Compliance writes hold in neat capitals. IT's keyboard begins a precise staccato. Credentials snap shut, one click at a time. The projector hums in the corner like a clock that has remembered its job. Mira lets breath return to the room, then sets the cost where it belongs. I almost let schedule outrank sight, she says. I treated velocity like virtue and nearly paid for it with 2 quarters and a reputation. That is on me. It does not happen again. She turns to Noah. Thank you for keeping receipts when the room didn't. His answer is a small nod that declines ceremony. He closes his notebook, aligns pen to spine, and reaches for his bag. The move says the work is handed back to the people who own it. He didn't come for applause, he came to stop a leak. He steps toward the door. Mr. Alvarez, Mira says. He stops in the threshold, not turning yet, waiting. Room holds its breath behind him. Stay. They meet the corridor halfway between glass and carpet, where the building's hum sounds like a held breath. Mira sets her folder against her hip and lets the umbrella memory stand between them. Thank you for last night, she says. I was not fine. Your 5 minutes made today possible. He takes the words the way he took the rain, with steadiness. She adds the second truth. We didn't hear you sooner. That is on the system I run. I mistook speed for clarity, and nearly let it cost us a quarter. He nods once. He understands. As owner, I want you engaged today on a day rate under NDA, she says. Close the seams we just named. Reset the validation refresh, lock maintenance behind dual approval, freeze manual insurance adjustments, and help legal template a bilingual control clause certification so language cannot drift. If the audit holds, I'll put a short retainer in front of you to harden processes and train teams. Official channels. Clean terms. He listens the way he does everything else, careful and complete. I'll deliver fixes to counsel and ops, he says, and then step out of the frame. I'm not the story. She doesn't argue. Results are. He adds the line that turns agreement into shape. Home by 3:30 for pickup. If it runs past that, it becomes tomorrow. Agreed, she says, immediately. She writes it into the engagement sheet with an ink that will not fade, signs, dates, and forwards the countersign to legal, while the phone is still warm. The boundary becomes part of the architecture, not a favor. Thank you, she says again, meaning last night and this one? He inclines his head and turns toward the door. Back in the room, she points to the whiteboard. Noah on implementation. The projector hum resets to his pace, and the work begins to move the way truth does, without hurry, without noise, exactly on time. Ops moves first. The room reshapes around work. Noah sketches a ladder of tasks at the whiteboard, then sits and turns it into steps others can carry. The order is the fix. Refresh the vendor class map before any pricing table loads. Lock the sequence so a code push cannot outrun validation again. IT writes the rule into deployment. Ops tests it twice, once on live data, once in the sandbox. Next, maintenance edits leave the dark. Dual approval replaces trust without records. Every change ticket carries 2 human names, a reason, a timestamp you can read without a lens, and an audit link that opens on the first click. Midnight windows shrink to a supervised hour with a standing checklist and a handoff today shift if the change breathes wrong. The credential cluster that loved 040 loses its keys. Insurance adjustments stop moving until the floor is dry. Manual edits freeze behind a single queue, and every underinsured departure flags red before the dock door rolls. Vendor relations gets a call tree for disputed freight that routes to people, not mailboxes. Route windows are remapped. Alerts climb an agreed ladder, operator, supervisor, compliance, before a lane can pause. A cure period takes the place of panic. Legal and ops build a bilingual control clause certification template that refuses drift. 2 sign-offs live on the same page, one from business, one from counsel, English beside the partner language, both anchored to the same definition. Vendors receive an addendum, a 30-day cure preventing full lane freezes, limited to the disputed route, with timelines no one can miss. The numbers translate. The leak slows from daily nuisance to weekly blip, then toward silence. Freeze risk falls. Projected exposure, once mapped at 14 to 18 million, halves and keeps softening as controls take. Noah keeps his voice where it belongs. If the right person reads the page can work, he says to no one in particular, and exactly to everyone whose hand touches a table. He documents without flourish and hands the steps to people who will own them tomorrow. Mira adds a standing open channel for risk signals over a threshold. Any manager can send a 2-line alert that bypasses single-point gatekeeping and lands with compliance and her office. Dale's elevated access disappears with a polite notice. Counsel lifts the rest of his story out of the working room. The orange umbrella stands by the window and forgets the rain while it dries. At Noah's desk, a courier sets down the dented thermos. The sunflower sticker flashes when he turns it. Under the lid a note waits in small, even script, "Wasn't done last night." He smiles once, then returns to the checklist without touching the moment. Confirmation emails land, dashboard smooth, vendor calls ease. The quarter steadies. Noah's 3:10 alarm nears. He saves work and checks elevator. Alma bursts from the school doors at 3:30 with paint on her sleeve and a smile that lifts the street. Noah is where he promised, the dented thermos tucked in his bag, the sunflower sticker catching a square of late light. She folds into his side with the casual precision of practice, then tilts back to show him a paper sun, yellow and loud. "We made a collage," she says. "Mine has the biggest petals." He laughs softly, the day loosening another notch. "Did the quiet work matter?" she asks, as if checking whether silence keeps its word. "It did," he says. "People listened." She thinks about that while they wait at the corner, sneakers toeing the curb. Good, she decides. Loud is for parades. Work doesn't need a parade. They cross with the light and fall into their matched pace. "Small words can move big machines," he says, "if they arrive at the right time and the right desk." She nods like someone filing a recipe card. Her hand finds the thermos strap and holds it steady between them. Back at Cobalt Ridge, the edit queue asks for 2 names before it lets anything in. Midnight windows have watchers. Vendor calls open with clarity and end with dates. On Myra's desk, beside a dry umbrella and a glass of water, a small card sits where she can't avoid it. Kindness is not a credential, but it's never off the record. Alma tells him about a girl who tried to glue glitter to the sun and made a sky instead. He tells her about a table that finally said the same thing twice. She laughs, then shields her collage from a gust with both hands, the way someone protects something new. They turn down their block. Leaves skate the sidewalk like coins. The thermos rides quietly between them, warm from the walk. At their door, Alma lifts the picture high so it won't bend. Noah looks back once toward a city that has stopped pretending not to hear. Inside an office with blinds open, an orange umbrella hangs to dry.